Hey everyone, this is a couple of examples of histograms that will help you with the homework. Many of you will not need to watch this whole video, so you can kind of skip ahead and watch bits if you need to. None of these questions are on the homework sheet, but the strategies I use here are exactly the same as the questions on the homework sheet. So first of all, what you need to know about all histograms questions is you always, whenever you have a table, you always have to make a column for frequency density. So essentially you have your three main things: frequency density equals frequency over class width. So there's your frequency, there's your class width for each part, and there's your frequency density. So you're just using this formula in different variations. So sometimes you're given frequency and class width, sometimes you're given the bar and you have to work out the frequency and so on. The first thing you want to do is work out the scale on this axis, and you're going to use the bar to do that. So we can see from 4 to 7 the frequency is 3, so frequency density is 3 divided by class width, which is also 3, so 3 divided by 3 is 1. That tells you that every 2 squares is worth 1 on the scale here. So 4 squares is worth 2, and you can see there's your scale. Now you have your scale, you can actually answer the whole of the rest of this. So you can pause the video, have a go, or you can just let me just do this bit for you. So I'm going to jump to the end here, and then I'll go back to the middle, because the end part here is actually easier. So I have frequency 2, class width 2, divide them by each other, I get 1. So that means 14 to 16 is going to be 1. There's your bar. This one here, 6 divided by class width 4 is 1.5. So that's 3 squares up, or 3 rectangles in this case. So that's your bar. And that's 1.5. 6 divided by 4. Now these two missing ones here, we're going to use the bar. So we know the frequency density is 8 for 7 to 8, and the frequency density is 6 for 8 to 10. Now you just use a formula. So frequency density is 8, class width is 1, so 8 times 1 is 8, and in this case frequency density is 6, and class width is 2. 6 times 2 is 12. Okay, now the next question here. Incomplete table, again, it's just essentially the same thing here. So we want to work out the scale, so we're going to need to do a frequency density column, FD, and we know that FD equals F over CW. This now means we have, we're going to work out frequency density scale first. So in this case it's 36 divided by 12. Now 36 divided by 12 is going to give you 3. That means that this is 3, or in other words, these thick lines there, 3, 2 and 1, those each represent 1 unit on the scale. And now for the second part, 44 divided by, well, the difference there is 8. 44 divided by 8 is going to give you 5.5. Now that's actually going to help you draw the missing bar, so it's going to go up to there, 5.5. So I'll just get that drawn on there. You can then just keep going. You can either pause the video and just try the rest. It should be 30 seconds for you to fill out the rest of the table, or I'll show you the answers in a second. Okay, here are the answers. Those are the values you should have got. Okay, so this is question 3. And you can see the style of question looks a bit different, but we're still using the same strategies here. So we need to work out the frequency density scale here. Now this is about how long it takes people to travel to school. 32 people say the travel time was less than 20. So essentially these two bars represent 32 people's. So that's the frequency. Frequency is how many there are. So frequency density equals frequency over class width. Now we don't know the distribution amongst these people. So what we want to do is work out the scale on the axes. So on this axis, you can see, since we don't have anything here, or we don't even have a table, we're just going to decide to call one of these squares x, and then 2x, 3x, and so on. So I can see that the area of the first square is 15 times 3x, and that gives me 45x. I'll just make a note of that here. And the area of this bar is 5 times 7, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 5 times 7x is 35x. If I add them together, I get 80x. So 80x represents 32 people. If I divide by 8, both sides by 80, I get x equals 32 over 80. And that will give me, so 32 divided by 80 is 0.4. So x is 0.4, and then actually from there, I can label the scale. So 0.4, 0.8, 1.2, and so on. Now that I have my scale, I might be able to answer part A. Estimate the number of people whose travel time is 40 minutes or more. Now again, this is a bit trickier because 40 minutes is in the middle of this bar here. So what we really want to deal with is just this section. Now when it says number of pupils, that just means frequency. We're finding frequency. So we can split this into two parts. So frequency equals frequency density times class width. And in this case, I can see frequency density is going to be, the frequency density is, because we're going up by 0.4 for each square, and that's in the middle, so that's 1.6 plus 0.4 plus 0.2, which will give you 2.2, times the class width here, 40 to 50 is 10, so that's 22, the answer to that. And then for this bar here, you do the same formula, frequency density is 0.8 times class width of 10, which is 8. So 22 plus 8 will give you 30. And that is your answer, 30. Now it says explain why our answer is an estimate. Well, you can see that we've split this bar in half. Now, if you were doing a survey and you were tallying people who wait from 30 to 50 minutes, it doesn't mean that they're spread equally. We've assumed that they're spread out equally here. In reality, maybe 90% of people were waiting between 30 and 40 minutes, and just 10% are represented by this side, but we're assuming an even distribution. So that is the third question. Okay, this is the last example here. We're looking at values of houses in a village, and you've been told 55 houses are valued more than 150,000. So just going to label the scale here just to make it a bit easier. So you can see that should be 150. This should be 225. And this should be 350. Now when it says 55 houses are valued 150,000 or more, that's essentially the last two bars that we're looking at. So you want to work out the area of the last two bars using the formula, and we don't know the scale. The reason we want the area is we were trying to work out the scale that goes here, and we can just call this x. Each of these is x. So in this case, you can see the height is 1, 2, 3, 4x, and the class width is 225 minus 150, which is 75. So 75 times 4x will give you 300x. So I'll just write that here temporarily. And then here is 2x times 125, because 350 take away 225. So 2x times 125 is going to give me 250x. The total area is then, adding these two up, you can see it's going to be 550x. 550x is equal to 55 houses. That represents 55 houses. If I divide by 550, that's 550,000, remember, but I'm just using the scale here. So x equals 55 over 550, which is 0.1. So that means each of these on the scale is 0.1. You can see that's labeled there. Work out how many houses are valued at 100,000 or less. Well, that is just this part here. So 0.3 is the frequency density, and we're working out frequency. So we're going to do frequency density times class width. So 0.3 times 100,000. Sorry, time 0. Yes, so that's going to give me 30 houses. The second part, estimate the number of houses valued between 100,000 and 200,000. So I'm just going to clear this up. So between 100 and 200. So we can see the class width here is 50. So frequency, we can rearrange that. The frequency equals frequency density times class width. And then we can just fill out the details for each of these two bars separately, and you get your answer. So 0.7 times 50 plus, now we've split this bar into thirds, but we're using 2/3, so it's going to be 150 up to 200, so that's also 50 and 0.4. So 0.7 times 50 plus 0.4 times 50 gives you 55. Now on the worksheet, you should use the same strategies to work out the answers here. You're always using the formula of frequency density, and whenever you've been given part of a bar, you just have to work out the area and use x on your scales. I hope that's been useful for you guys.